All right, in this video, I'm here to remind you that the Chargers have a secret weapon that I think all of us are forgetting about somehow. I think in the crazy changing of the coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new head coach, new GM, like everything has changed. And there's a lot of other changes in that too. Those are just the four big ones. The Chargers still have something that's consistent. And this is a secret weapon, and I'm going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of this and what this means for your team. And that is Justin Herbert. And I know you can be, whatever, turn it off. No, don't do that. Just trust me on this for a second. All right, I was watching sports talk radio on TV. I know, it doesn't make sense. This was years ago. Completely changed the way I view the NFL and schedules. Now, don't get me wrong. Do you see teams that make the playoffs? Do you see teams that have successful seasons? Every once in a great while, do you see a team that wins a Super Bowl without an elite quarterback? Yes. But more often than not, when you get to the playoffs, guess what it is? It is high-quality quarterback play with good enough talent around them. When you watch back to games, and I kind of veered off. That's the ADD. Don't worry about it. All right? I'll go back to it. I was watching sports talk radio, and Colin Cowherd, like him, love him, hate him, whatever. All right? He talked about the power of a great quarterback. And he talked about when you're doing the schedule, and this is where I'll kind of take over, the quarterback has to by far be the biggest one. So here's the way I look at it. If you have an elite quarterback, 500 is your floor. Like, that's kind of what it looks like. That's your starting point just because you have an elite quarterback. So right now, even with a poor roster, I'm not saying it's a bad roster, but it's not a loaded roster for the Chargers. I think it will be very soon, especially based on this draft. All right, but it's not a loaded roster just because you have Herbert. If he's healthy for 17 games, your prediction has to be at least 8-9 or 9-8. That's what it is because you have a great quarterback. And then based on what that schedule looks like, for example, you're playing the NFC South. Yay. All right, that's a couple of extra victories over any other division. All right. And then you are playing what was I believe, last place schedule, was it in the West? Maybe second to last place schedule. So it's not this difficult schedule. Now, you do travel more than any team, so that makes it more difficult. But because you have an elite quarterback, there are games that you are going to win simply because you have an elite quarterback. So let's go through the schedule, not with the view of whose roster is better. All right, but let's go with the view of whose quarterback is better, factoring in to a larger portion. And then I don't think I've done this yet. I don't think we've gone through the schedule yet. So week 1, you're at home against the Raiders. And I know going to Vegas has been a house of horrors for you guys. But the Raiders coming into town, Harbaugh's going to have them ready. But again, who's their quarterback? All right? Who is their quarterback? And I understand they have a great defense and all of this kind of stuff. You have a coaching advantage. You have a quarterback advantage. Chalk that up for a victory. Week 2 at Carolina. Is this the worst team in football? We're going to find out if Bryce Young actually is bad because now he actually has a resemblance of weapons around him. But that's a victory. You guys are further along. You are better coached, and you flat out have the better quarterback. Then you go to games against teams like the Steelers in week 3. Here's the thing. It's at Pittsburgh. All right? It's a big advantage for them. Big advantage for them. It's 2 weeks out east in a row for you guys, wondering what you're going to do. All right? How are you going to come back to LA? You're going to go up north? Look, what are you going to do? You're going to stay in the same time zone? But then you go to Pittsburgh. Who is their quarterback? You've played Russell. You know what that looks like. Is it going to be Fields? See, this is one of those situations where all of a sudden you realize the first 3 games, even though 2 of them are on the road, even though the Steelers had a great draft, you're probably at an advantage for them. You could go 3-0 out the gates. You really could. Chiefs, sorry, you're playing an elite quarterback. It's the way it goes. All right, so that's the first loss on the season. Even though it's at home, and it'll be nice to get some good home cooking. Now, after being out east for 2 weeks and then back home against the Chiefs, it'll be nice. I don't like the week 5 bye, but at least it's coming after you guys had some serious travel. Week 6, you have the Broncos and Bo Nix. That's a W. Thank you very much. And aren't you happy about it? Then you travel to Arizona. Not a far trip, okay? But Arizona is going to be sneaky better than we thought, all right? And again, Kyler Murray puts them in the middle-of-the-road quarterback category. But again, Justin Herbert's not a middle-of-the-road quarterback, so we can give you that victory if you want, and you're 5-1. You go, and you're still home. You go back home, and you're playing the Saints. Who's their quarterback? I don't know, all right? It's Derek Carr. Like, you've seen him in Oakland and Vegas forever. All right, that's a victory. You could start the year 6-1. Are you kidding me? Then you have what might be this really weird, random, non-division game, same conference, a game against the Cleveland Browns that could be everything. All right, it's a tough game. I'm giving you a loss here only because, again, you have the quarterback advantage, but you don't have both the elements, the travel, and all that kind of stuff advantage. Then you get the Titans. Thank you so much, last place scheduling. We get to play the Tennessee Titans. That's another victory. Who's their quarterback? 7-2. You happy? Are you happy with it? And now you get to start playing the gauntlet of good quarterbacks. This might be as tough of a 4-game stretch as I have seen. Now, you have a team that's confident. So going into it, I'm going to give you one win in all this. I'm going to give you a win in all this. All right, but it's probably not going to be where you think. And it's going to be against the Bengals. All right, even though Joe Burrow's there, I don't know what's going on with his wrist. Can he do this? Or can he only go here? I don't know. Have you been hearing all this stuff about Joe Burrow? All right, and then you have Baltimore, Atlanta, a very healthy Cousins by week 13. At Kansas City, at Atlanta. I know everybody would think that I'd choose the win against Atlanta. That's not where I'm choosing it, all right? So coming out of that brutal 4-game stretch, you're still sitting at 8-5. You're still in the driver's seat to make some things happen, and then you have such a friendly 4-game stretch to end the season. I can't think of a more friendly stretch to end the season outside of going into the House of Horrors that is Las Vegas right now. Tampa Bay. You're home cooking, you get a victory against the Fighting Baker Mayfields. He's not an elite quarterback. He put up good numbers last year. He's not elite. Denver Broncos, that's another victory. Thank you for the sweep. At New England, I get it. It's late in the season. Okay, I get it. It's late December in New England. It's not going to be easy, but that is the worst New England team I have seen yet. So you get a victory in New England against a maybe rookie quarterback at that time. May still be I don't know. And then to end the year, you're playing against the Raiders. So if you factor in a healthy quarterback for every one of these games, and of course when we do schedule releases, we have to factor in healthy quarterback. We have to factor in healthy roster. This is 12-5 team. I know that's too nice. This should be 10-7. But when you look at the schedule, when you look at the lack of high-quality quarterbacks you play, and you even go back to last year and see what this team did with a bad defense when Herbert was around, they were in every game. They were a 500 team just because Herbert kept them in games. All right? And now he's not going to be forced to do everything. He won't be. So, are there a lot of question marks? Yes. What happens if a safety gets hurt? What happens if Poona Ford gets hurt? What do you got behind him? What happens... oh my goodness, what if a corner gets hurt? Right? Like, what do you have for depth there? What happens if an interior offensive lineman goes down? Oh my goodness. Heaven forbid if Bozeman, the center, goes down. Right? Like, who are you playing at receiver? Are there question marks on this team? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm just telling you that this team is in a better position than last year, not just because of who's at the helm, still at the helm, but because of the schedule that you're playing. All right. That's the secret weapon. Herbert and schedule. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.